Well, welcome back to the IT Mostly channel on YouTube. I'm Jim with Century Technical Consulting, and today I'm going to take you through a little walk through virtualization and Windows 10. What may be a little different is I'm actually going to install Windows 10 on, as you can see here, an ESX 55 host, not your normal VirtualBox fare. Before we do anything though, let's take a little walk around our ESX host and make sure that we have everything we need here. We'll just quickly go over here, look at configuration. We see what our local storage devices are, how healthy it is, how many processors, all that good stuff. The biggest thing here is if you're going to be installing through ESX, you're going to have to make sure that whatever storage adapter you're using is going to show up in this list here. Meaning USB, CD-ROM, whatever. Make sure whatever device that is going to show up in this list, because if it doesn't show up in here, your VMs are never going to be able to see it. Why is that important? Because I'm actually going to be installing this operating system, this Windows 10, and this is right now, this is December of 2014, so this is still an eval copy, but nonetheless, I will be installing this operating system using the local drive on the host instead of on the laptop, just because it's a lot quicker that way. Anybody that's ever tried to install OS over a network into an ESX server knows it can be a very painful process. Nothing's quicker than local storage. So that's the way we're going to do it. And we can see here that I have a DVD-ROM available and it's already mounted and ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start our process of setting up a new VM. How do we do that? Well, it's pretty much like you start any. We'll just go ahead and click here, and we're going to make a new virtual machine. Now, I'm not going to get too fancy about this, but I'll give it enough gusto to make it interesting. We can do a typical install here. Don't need to do anything custom. I'm going to name it Windows 10, and then we're going to go next. And it's going to ask what data store we want to use. Since we only have one on the machine, there's no fiber connections or anything. We'll go ahead and use this one. This is data store 1. It's going to be Windows. Now, this version doesn't have Windows 10 in it, so we're going to do Windows 8 64-bit. That's pretty close. That should get us a nice template for what we're trying to accomplish today. So we'll go ahead and choose that. Network adapters, looks okay here. Want it connected to power on, of course. Now, provisioning. Probably thin provisioning would be the best. That's what most people do. 32 gig is plenty, for especially for a VM on a Windows guest OS. Thick provisioning, nah, not necessary. So thin provisioning, because it doesn't eat up all that space. So we'll move on here. Good, so this is the basic. Now I'm going to go ahead and edit the configuration here and check this box here. Just there's always a few little things I like to change before I make this thing live. Now it's saying 2 gig. I'm going to give it a little more memory than that. I'm going to give it, because it is Windows 10, I'm going to go ahead and give it about, I'll give it, was it 5? No, so I'll give it 6 gig. CPUs, 1 socket, but I'm going to give it 4 cores. I can be generous because there's not a lot going on this machine right now. Video card, we can use the video memory calculator. I want 3D support, but we'll say 9 meg. This is virtualization. We're not going to be playing Dragon Age Inquisition on this VM, so not that we could anyway. Don't have to worry about VMCI. Now, here's the important thing. If you want to boot anything, of course, you see normally you have the client device, which means whatever computer you're running the vSphere client on, whatever device is there, you'd connect. Of course, that makes things very slow and tedious. You could do a data store. If you had an ISO file of this in your data store, of course, you could pull it right out of there. But I'm going to use the host device. You can see it finds my CD-ROM right off the bat. We don't need a floppy. We don't need a SCSI controller. Don't need another NIC. We should check, however, yes, connected power on, because otherwise nothing will happen. The hard disk we have here is fine. So we're good to go. We'll say finish. And now we have our new little VM. We can kind of look at how it's set up here. Real quick overbite here. Overview, overbite. I'm thinking about my dental work. Okay. And so, yeah, nothing's happened. Because nothing will happen. There's the console. Let's go to that. Let's go ahead and start this VM now. And we'll watch. And hopefully, if we've configured this right, when it comes up, you should see the Windows logo here. And we do. So we're starting. And we're going to start the Windows 10 boot process, which is always exciting. I'm sure it'll be just a short while before we actually get into the meat of this. Okay, and we're back. So, we're at the initial setup screen, so let's go ahead. Let's see, we're in English, we're in United States, and we're in US keyboard. That's fine. So get back in here. We don't have any acceleration yet because we don't have the VMware tools. We'll go ahead and start the install process there, which is always exciting. At least I have this nifty little mouse cursor to look at now, which I'm greatly enthused by. Of course, I accept the license because it's free and free stuff is great. Okay, well, there's really nothing to do upgrade. And we're going to take it, see it finds our 32 gig drive allocated, so that's good. We'll say next. And now it's going to copy files. And now it's getting them ready. This is always the most riveting part of any Windows install. Personally, I prefer it to girls. Not really. Yeah. Now, whether or not I continue talking has a lot to do with how fast it gets these files ready for installation. And I think that's going to take a while. So again, we're going to take another break. See you in a little bit. And we're still getting them ready. So, yeah. Okay, a little longer. Okay, now we've come back and it got through that whole process and we've got this horrible error code. It can't install. Something's missing. So what we have to do is go back and figure out what it is. Chances are it's a BIOS setting. We'll go ahead and shut this thing down and see if we can possibly fix this. Okay, I've made a few changes in the VM, not really too many. I just had to go back into the BIOS and change the boot order so this thing would actually restart off the disk. And I've restarted the install process after that error. And now you can see that it did create the drive. So what that error was is kind of strange. It could be a media error, it could be something else. Being a VM, it's a little hard to troubleshoot, but because if it was something like a actual physical computer I was installing this on, then I'd go in the BIOS and the first thing I'd look for is to turn off the execute disable bit in the BIOS, but I don't really have that option with VMware VM. So let's see if we can fix this. Let's see if this worked, just doing a reboot. And again, we're copying files. Always exciting. We'll be back and see if we've solved our problem. Good. Looks like I got through this time. Good, now we're starting Windows. So it might just have been a little hiccup with the I/O controller. Who knows? Now we're loading. Just taking a look at some of the events here. Noticed an event about GPU resources not available. That might be because of the 3D acceleration setting. Hey, this is where you come for IT screw-ups. I don't sugarcoat nothing. Good. Let's see if we get a desktop. I'm anticipating, I'm getting ready. I'm still getting ready. Almost ready. Still getting ready. Ready as I'll ever be. Hey, something's going to happen. It's going to reboot. Yeah, I know, all you Ubuntu guys. If this were a Linux distro, we'd be in by now. Finally, a desktop. Get online settings, express settings. Yeah, fine. Now this is going to be a little different. I am not going to sign into a Microsoft account because I'm going to assume this is going to be hooked into a domain network. So keep your eyes peeled for another option. We do create a new account. And then, you see all the way down here? Microsoft really, really wants you to be into their Microsoft ecosystem, but I'm going to go in without one. Now I'm making, what this is a local account. So my name will be user, and my password will be whatever the heck I set it to. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to meet the complexity settings here. We'll see. So, well, password hint. Okay. Looks like it's trying to do it. Well, hello there, Windows 10. Oh, are you now? Well, at least it's not as bad as Windows 8. No, you're not installing any apps. Oh, wow. Pretty colors. Okay. We're going to stop the video here for a minute. We'll be back when it's done doing this garbage. See you in a bit. Good. Let's start. And we have a desktop. Whoopee! Now, first thing we should do, probably install those VMware tools, I'm thinking. What do you guys think? It doesn't matter what you think. I can't hear you. So, let's see about that. Okay. Now what it should do is try to mount this as a virtual CD or a hard drive or whatever and see if it can install it. There we go. It's done it. And we'll do that. And let's see if it can handle it. There's the security prompt. And you saw I just went to guest and install VMware tools, just like you would on any other Windows host. You can see the little installation bug down here. Why not? Sometimes this fails though because it may install stuff that it can't find, but it'll get the bulk of it in there. We'll have to do a reboot after this too. Yeah, see that driver we're not even going to use. Remember, we didn't enable VMCI because we don't need VMs to talk to each other. At least not in that way. Now, in a future video here that I plan to collaborate with a friend of mine on, we'll see a little more about VMs talking to each other. There we go. Good. We're done. Click finish. Yep. We'll let it restart. And then what I'll do is we're coming near the end here, so when it restarts, comes back up, first thing I'm going to do is see if we can get to the internet. That way we know our network adapter has been set up correctly in VMware, that it's been passed through. Well, it's not really passed through, it's just available. We're not passing through any hardware to this VM. Okay. Pretty quick. Definitely a soft reboot. And we wait. There we go. All right. Now this is a local user, this is a Microsoft user, and there's a couple of things that are not going to happen because we're a local user. One of them is the Microsoft Store, the App Store, is going to be severely limited, if not unavailable. Let me put in my super secret password. Good. And as you can see, my mouse is moving much more smoothly now. Seems much happier. Appears we have network connectivity. Yes. We're in a home group. I don't know why we're in a home group, but we're in a home group. Let's look at the virtual adapter. It's being reported. Okay. And we do have packets flowing. Very good. Now, cool, huh? This is Windows 10. Look at that start menu. Ain't it pretty? I think this is a dumb place for a power button, but okay. Now, see, we're going to go to the store here. And you're going to find out that it's going to prompt for a Microsoft ID. Now, in the enterprise, apparently there are options to be able to have a enterprise or domain level store. So kind of a repository for the intranet, if that's a term people still use. As you can see here, you don't seem to be having quite that problem. Apparently they fixed that. Let's see if it lets us actually install anything. Let's install Notepad. Aha, there you go. Now this is a local account, not a Microsoft. So we don't have it, so we're going to use our current password to see if this lets us actually do the install. And it's not. Yep. So now at least, before we couldn't see the store, but now at least we could see the store, but we're not allowed to install anything from it. Okay. Well, let's see about maybe doing a little change in the screen res here. We can do better than this, don't you think? Let's try that. Nope, that's a little better. Kind of a tablet display, but oh well. What happens if we detect? Pretty much nothing. Okay. Well, let's head to a web page. In fact, let's go to one of our favorite web pages. So there we go. We're on our favorite YouTube channel. Well, at least it's my favorite YouTube channel. Anyway, I think we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. Stay tuned for another video going a little further into Windows 10. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.